Hello, welcome to Strictly Money at the News Forum, where all voices matter. I'm Saijal Patel. There's a wave of advocates pushing for a change to registered retirement income fund withdrawal rules. Many believe the current mandate requiring retirees to withdraw a minimum amount starting at age 72 is outdated in light of longer lifespans and growing financial uncertainty. Laura Tamblyn Watts is CEO of CanAge, Canada's national seniors advocacy organization, and she joins me now with her thoughts. Hi, Laura. Great to see you.
Thank you.
So, what do you think? Is it time to change how RIFs work?
It's past time to change how risks work. When we originally set it up, the average age of death was 74. And so it made sense that you would have a couple of years where you did deaccumulate in this fashion. So you didn't end up with a bulk of money when you died. Now our average age of death is closer to 84. So either we need to get with the times, get rid of the mandatory withdrawals, or we at least need to bump it up to match our age of death.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there are lots of advocates that are pushing for change, Laura. And I was looking at, CD Howe Institute has suggested a couple of things. One is increasing the age limit for mandatory conversion from to 75 from 71 now, lowering the required withdrawals to reflect increased lifespans, or just completely getting rid of the withdrawals. Do you have a preference or a thoughts on what should be done?
I absolutely do. Just get rid of it. I mean, this
Mm.
is an archaic idea of you work your whole life, then all of a sudden you completely retire and start deaccumulating. And we know that's not what we do now. And it's certainly not what we're going to be doing in the future. Just to give you a sense, we need to have Canadian workers stay about 7.7 years longer on average in the next decade. So, this idea of 65 already would bump us up to mandatory withdrawal. So, we're now asking people to still make money because we have such a demographic crunch and such a labor shortage. And at the same time, we're going to force them to deaccumulate, which is causing a tax penalty. It's simply outdated.
Yeah. And I should point out, I was looking at this, Laura, that US has a lower mandatory requirement, the percentage. The UK has, like you said, they've completely removed it. And in fact, there's a portion that seniors can take out tax free, which I thought was actually very interesting. Do you think that the underlying concern is that by forcing people to withdraw money, it puts them at risk of running out of money? What do you think the concern is? Because the other side of it is, well, okay, we'll just withdraw what you have to and invest it if you don't need it.
And we then get a lot of fees, and that's part of the problem, right? What we know is we take money out of certain things, there are fees associated with it. But on top of that, once you get used to accumulating in a certain way, once you take money out, then we know from the research it becomes quite uncertain. Money starts dissipating in ways that kind of flow through the fingers of people. So, what we want to do is say, there is this very useful way of putting money aside. You can withdraw from it in an appropriate fashion. I'm not saying you are allowed to keep it forever and ever in sort of a tax protected vehicle, but this forcing at this very young age now is counterintuitive when we're also saying actually people need more flexibility with their money, and we need to start in not allowing people to take money out of pensions or personal savings at the same time as accumulating. So those old clawback provisions are a real barrier as well. It's time to just get rid of it.
Laura, do you have any sense of how seniors are feeling about this? Is this something that they want? Because I also think that once you prescribed a certain way of, like you said, pulling out money, they do it, right? And I know the flip side is some people won't, if you push the age limit up, for example, say to 75, some seniors will get scared and say, okay, well, if that's the case, we're not going to pull it out when we really need it at 71, and they won't spend enough, right? So I guess there's an education component to this too.
There always is an education component, and there's some behavioral economics behind it. But I laughed when you said, how do seniors feel? Seniors are furious about this. This is one of those kitchen table conversations
Mm.
that they are being forced to withdraw money that they might want to keep in secured vehicles. They're being told they're old, at a time where many of them are either still working or starting new businesses. Seniors entrepreneurship is on the rise like never before. This bumps into entrepreneurship issues.
Yeah.
It makes a mess of tax implications.
Welcome back. We've been talking about RRIF withdrawal rules with Laura Tamblyn Watts. Laura, my understanding is that the Department of Finance is reviewing whether the current RRIF withdrawal rules are appropriate in today's environment. Do you have any idea of how receptive they've been? When we will see revisions, if we will at all?
We've been talking with the Department of Finance on this topic for more than a decade, and they have been quite resistant to open up what they consider a Pandora's box. Of course, for them, it's very easy to calculate when they're going to get their money. It's a nice constant stream of money, easy for the actuarial folks to be able to calculate
Mm.
what money is coming in and how. So, disturbing that, as you can imagine, is a bit of a challenge. Having said that, right now, this past year, the government has been consulting on it and has been hearing, I think, somewhat to their surprise, how truly annoyed people are at this fairly archaic requirement. I think we are going to see this to becoming an election issue. And as the government is thinking about how to win seniors' votes at a time where they have downgraded the Minister of Seniors to a combined portfolio and have
Mm.
generally not been doing much for seniors, this is a pocketbook issue for folks. So this may find its way into a pre-election campaign in 2024.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if they do delay the age of mandatory withdrawals, whether they'll allow Canadians to contribute more to their RSPs or at least up to a later date as well. So, I guess we'll have to stay tuned. Laura, let's switch gears and talk about seniors and just sort of staying on topic of the fact that, many people are concerned of the risk of outliving their savings. Can you set the record straight? Because not all seniors are destitute. There are seniors who are in pockets, right? But my understanding is that a lot of seniors actually have more wealth than other generations.
And it's really important that we pull apart the ages within the plus 65 category.
Mm.
So, sort of 65 to 75, even up to 80, kind of your boomers at the front end. And they tend to both have a lot of disposable wealth and also a lot of debt. In fact, they're the most indebted
Oh.
group we have ever seen retire. So we see that there's a lot of money floating around, but also a lot of debt floating around. And that's a big worry. A lot of them have been hoping to inherit from their parents who are living longer than ever before. And we are in the biggest intergenerational transfer of wealth that we've ever had, about
Hmm.
$1 trillion over 15 years. And we're a couple of years into that. So there's money floating around. What we're seeing, however, is that people are getting stuck with the reality that they have invested their money at very low income rates for decades. We all were able to borrow. That's why the debt is very high for this generation. But at the same time, they weren't earning a lot of money. So lots of debt at low cost, but also not a lot of investment earnings because interest rates were low. Now we're at a crux inflection point. Interest rates are up, good, but they're now needing to deaccumulate. So that's bad for them because now everything costs more and they don't have as much money. Plus, they can't afford to carry the debt load that they have been carrying. It's a real crunch point. So there's money, but it's very compressed in their worries. Older people, sort of people 75, 80, and onwards, have a lot of sort of house rich cash poor. We hear that all of the time. And it looks like the answer should be just sell the house, you'll be fine. But the reality of the circumstance is many cannot afford to do that because they can't move into anything that's affordable. They can't get property tax deferrals. And if you own a property, it's usually cheaper to stay there. They
Yeah,
can't necessarily get easy loans out otherwise because they don't have income streams coming in, which then puts them at risk of things like reverse mortgages, very high
exactly.
cost.
Yeah.
So it is a complex situation. Should people be worried about running out of money? Some should. What they really should be worried about is the cost of inflation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Laura, we only have 45 seconds left. What other policy would you like to see right now to support seniors to ensure that they don't outlive their savings?
We need to make sure that we are rationalizing these age constraints. Again, is a 65 make any sense? Let's start thinking about what it is that we can free up. Let's also make sure that people can draw down on pensions while at the same time receiving some pension. So we need to be able to earn money and draw down at the same time. Quebec's been doing this for years. It's time for the rest of Canada to catch up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I always say, very important to have a financial plan done because accumulation is tough for many. Deaccumulation is very tough. There's just far too many unknowns, aren't there?
And the cost of aging is a lot of unknowns.
Yeah,
So the
yeah,
financial plan is going to be really important. Make sure your financial planner does know about the cost
yeah,
of high aging rates for things like home care and long term care. So they build
yeah.
those pieces in